In the summer of 480 BC, a storm of bronze and iron descended upon Greece. Hundreds of thousands marched under the banner of the Persian king Xerxes, the ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen. Against this unstoppable force stood just 300 Spartans, not heroes of myth, but real men who deliberately marched towards certain death. This is the real story of Thermopylae, a story of strategy, betrayal, sacrifice, and 3 days that shaped the future of the Western world. To understand Thermopylae, we must understand the man who ordered the invasion, Xerxes III. Xerxes inherited not just a throne, but the greatest empire in human history, stretching from modern Pakistan to Egypt, from the Persian Gulf to the Aegean Sea. Persia was a multicultural giant. Its armies included Egyptians, Babylonians, Phoenicians, Medes, Scythians, Bactrians, Indians, Scythians, a tapestry of nations under one king. Xerxes was driven by two things. One, the need to avenge his father Darius, who had failed to conquer Greece. Two, the desire to prove himself worthy of ruling an empire built by legends. Greece in 480 BC was not a unified nation. It was a collection of fiercely independent city-states: Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes, and dozens more. They shared language and religion, but almost nothing else. Athens valued democracy, art, and naval power. Sparta valued discipline, military excellence, and tradition above all else. Persia saw Greece as rebellious, unpredictable, and dangerous. If Greek ideas spread eastward, they could threaten the stability of the empire. Years before Thermopylae, Persian forces had attempted to conquer Greece during the reign of Darius I, Xerxes' father. But at the Battle of Marathon, a much smaller Greek army defeated the Persians in a shocking upset. This humiliation echoed across the empire. For Xerxes, it wasn't just military revenge, it was personal, political, and symbolic. To ensure victory, Xerxes built an invasion force of unprecedented size. Ancient writers claimed over 1 million troops. Modern historians reduced that number, but all agree it was one of the largest armies ever assembled in antiquity. Xerxes ordered two extraordinary engineering feats. 1. A canal cut through Mount Athos, allowing ships to bypass deadly waters. 2. Two massive pontoon bridges across the Hellespont, linking Asia to Europe. These weren't just logistical innovations, they were displays of imperial power. As Persia marched, Greek city-states met in Corinth to decide whether they would unite or fall separately. Athens agreed to evacuate its citizens and rely on its navy. Sparta agreed to lead the land forces. But not all Greeks sided with them. Some, like Thebes, were divided. Others, like Thessaly, submitted to Persia out of fear. Only a portion of Greece would stand against the empire. The Greeks knew they couldn't win an open battle. They needed terrain where Persian numbers meant nothing. Thermopylae was a natural fortress. A narrow pass, at points barely 15 meters wide, trapped any army that entered it. Mountains on one side, the sea on the other. No room for cavalry, no room for flanking. A small Greek force could hold it for days. Maybe long enough for the Greek navy to destroy the stronger Persian fleet. Spartans were raised for war in a system called the agoge, a brutal military upbringing unlike anything in the ancient world. From age 7, boys trained in endurance, discipline, combat, and obedience. At 20, they became full-time soldiers. At 30, they became citizens. The 300 Spartans chosen by Leonidas were not random. They were his personal guard, the elite of the elite, and every one of them had a son, ensuring their family line would continue if they fell. Leonidas was not the typical Spartan king. Where Spartan rulers usually inherited their position, Leonidas came to power only after his older brothers died. He wasn't just born to lead, he was forged by circumstance. Leonidas understood something crucial. Thermopylae was not a battle to win. It was a battle to delay, a sacrifice to buy time for Greece to survive. Xerxes demanded the Greeks surrender their weapons. Leonidas replied with 2 words that became legend: Malon Labe, come and take them. Persian archers opened the battle with a storm of arrows. The Spartans raised their shields. The sky darkened, but the phalanx held. When infantry charged, the Spartans countered with perfect discipline. Their armor was heavier, their spears were longer, their formation was unbreakable. Xerxes unleashed the Immortals, Persia's elite unit, famed for discipline and skill. But the pass stripped them of their advantages. They couldn't outflank, they couldn't surround, they couldn't break the Spartan wall. Xerxes was said to have jumped from his throne 3 times in frustration as he watched his best troops fail. Everything changed when a local Greek named Ephialtes approached Xerxes with a secret: a mountain trail behind the Greek position. That night, Persian forces marched through dense forest and rugged terrain to outflank the Greeks. By dawn, Leonidas knew. They were surrounded. Leonidas dismissed most of the Greek troops to save their lives. He and the 300 Spartans remained, along with 700 Thespians who chose death over surrender, and 400 Thebans forced to stay, though unwilling. Together, they formed a final line. The last stand was chaotic, brutal, and heroic. The Greeks fought with broken spears, then swords, then their bare hands. Leonidas fell in the fighting. His men fought desperately to protect his body, a final act of loyalty in the face of certain death. Surrounded and overwhelmed, the remaining Greeks were killed by arrows as Persian archers ended the battle. Thermopylae was a tactical loss, but a strategic victory. The 3-day delay allowed the Greek navy to prepare. At Salamis, the Greeks destroyed much of Persia's fleet. At Plataea, they won the decisive land battle. Xerxes retreated. Greece survived. And the ideals of independent city-states, democracy, and Western philosophy survived with it. Thermopylae was not just a battle. It was a message that courage, discipline, and sacrifice can change the fate of nations. Thanks for watching Rapid History. Tap the next video to explore another turning point in world history.